Welcome, everyone. We're going to spend the next few minutes here talking about how we are using in our own studios 5-page mini sites. This is kind of a low-tech solution for doubling enrollment, for freeing up a bunch of time, whole heck of a lot easier than what most people are implementing. And we're going to talk today about how we figure this out and how you can implement this at your own studio as well. We'll also have a special offer for you at the end if you decide you want some help implementing these things. Happy to chat with you. Happy to set up a time for you to chat with our team and get some direct feedback. And then if it makes sense to work together, we can have that conversation as well. But what are we going to cover today? First and foremost, we're going to talk about why these 5-page sites outperform more complicated solutions literally every single time. So we track a lot of data. We do this at our own studios. We do it with all of our coaching clients that we work with, all of the folks that are using our software implementations that we have. And we've got the data. It's just absolutely no question. This outperforms more complicated solutions every single time. We'll show you how to set this up in less than 3 hours for about $10 a month, and how to recycle your current content to save even more money and time. So if you already have a website, of course, show you how you can use the images and the text, all that kind of stuff, recycle that content to save even more time. How we use these sites, we'll also be chatting about that to attract students that are higher ticket students. So one of the complaints that we get quite a bit from studios is they mention that they can't find parents that are dedicated or kids that are dedicated. They struggle to compete with sort of lower ticket offers and after school programs and those kind of things. And we're absolutely killing it with this at our own studios. Each fundamentals beginner student that's coming into our studio is worth about $2,000 to $3,000 each. Very, very similar results for all of the clients that we have implementing this in all kinds of different areas, all kinds of different situations, all kinds of different arts and things that they're teaching. And I'll share with you at the end of the presentation today some of those case studies and exactly what kind of results folks are getting in a very, very short amount of time. So you want to stick around for that, okay? We'll also show you how we built our sites for our own studios to consistently average 120 new prospective students every single month all year round. That is the case over the holidays. That is the case throughout the summers. It is consistent throughout the year. So no matter what time of year you're looking to bump up your enrollment, this is something that's going to work exceptionally well, literally at any time of year, okay? We'll also show you how a simple site pre-frames students for year-round enrollment. Now that's a really important thing at our studios, and if you've been following any of our stuff for any amount of time, you know that at my studios I'm enrolling students into 12-month programs. Now whether you do something different during the summer, you're doing summer intensives or camps or something like that, and you want to package that into a year-round program, or you literally want to run your regular schedule throughout the year, I kind of don't have a dog in that fight. But there's no question that the way that we're building these sites, the way that we're building these little systems, pre-frame students so that they're willing to come in and do that. Now, I'm not just making a claim that I can't back up here. I live in a state, in an area where everybody goes on vacation in the summertime. I understand that. Kids go to sleepaway camp. There's always the couple of students that are going away to stay with dad who lives in another city or something like that over the summertime. I totally get that. Of course that happens. But a huge majority, about 85% of the students that enroll in our studios, we retain over the summer. We retain them 12 months out of the year. And a big piece of that is how we pre-frame students before we ever even make an offer to them. Okay, once again, I'll be sharing a bunch of case studies here as we go. If you stick around to the end, in their own words, what studios are saying after they've implemented these strategies and how much of a difference it's making to them and how much of a difference it can make to you as well. That being said, I don't want to waste your time. My own time is valuable. I know that, and I will respect your time as well. So this is probably not for you if you're not willing or able to make some changes. So if you're running some kind of a franchised program or something like that, you're not allowed to go in and make updates to your website or to the offers that you're making and the types of classes you're teaching. This might not be something that's too helpful for you, okay? If you don't already have something great to offer to your community, this might not be helpful for you either. So how do you know if you have something great? Well, most of you hopefully already understand that. But if you're getting some consistent referrals, word of mouth is going pretty well at your studio, that kind of stuff, probably a good chance that this will help you out. Also, if you're interested in doing things the way that like everybody else does, everybody else is kind of driving traffic to a hyper complicated website that does direct online enrollments and it doesn't work very well, and we'll show you why that's the case. If you're interested in just doing what everybody else is doing, it's going to be hard for you to stand out. It's going to be hard for you to compete a little bit in your messaging and in your community. But if that's an important thing to do, hey, no problem. This is your business. It should serve you and your lifestyle. Totally get it. But what we're going to talk about today might not be for you. Okay. Now, this is probably for you if you already kind of have this understanding that your website needs some updates, but you just don't have lots of time to dedicate to that. I talk to studio owners all the time. It's a very, very common situation for them to be. I say, hey, let me take a look at your website and I'll give you a little bit of feedback. And they get a little bit embarrassed sometimes and they know that they need to go and update things. And it's still got the schedule from 3 months ago on there and all kinds of other things. We've found some solutions to those problems. And I think that the ways that we're building these types of 5-page mini sites is going to solve most of those problems for you as well. Okay. Also, if you're just simply tired of expensive web managers that overpromise and they underdeliver, or they overprice and they underdeliver, there's a lot of folks out there that know how to make websites that are pretty. I'll admit that they can make things that are pretty. But if that website isn't accomplishing what you actually need it to, that's what I'm calling under deliver here. We need it to actually help us to get more students through the door and to have those students pre-framed in a way that they're willing to be dedicated and that they're willing to pay premium prices for what it is we offer. This is also probably a good fit for you if you have room to add at least 50 new students. If your classes are already full and you still feel like your studio is not as profitable as it should be, we can still have a conversation. There's probably some things that we can chat about. You're welcome to book a call and talk to our team. We can help you solve that problem. But this presentation today isn't necessarily going to talk about that. So if you've got a bunch of extra room to put students in some of your classes, or you could add some additional classes either later in the evenings or perhaps during the day, something like that, this is probably going to be a good fit. Also, if you're willing to stand in your value, you're not just trying to be the Walmart of dance studios where you've priced yourself exactly the same or lower than everybody else in town. That's not what we're trying to build in our own city. That's not what we're trying to build in our own studios. We're trying to be the premium offering in the city, and this generally works for studios that are trying to be that, to occupy that position as well. So super quick, good chance if you're watching this, you've seen some of our stuff before, but who am I? Well, my name's Mago. I happen to be a husband and a father of 2 amazing kiddos, and that's kind of the most important thing about me. The other thing that's kind of important about me is that there's really nothing important about me. I'm just a guy, okay? I'm not some super famous guy. I wasn't some kind of I wasn't born with some kind of silver spoon in my mouth. I don't have a PhD in business or marketing or something like that. I've just figured out things along the way. I do currently own a number of studios. I currently own 3 studios in 3 different markets, several different locations in different markets. I guess is probably a more correct way of saying that. I was trained, however, as like a laboratory scientist. That's what I went to school for. And I think part of the advantage that I have comes from that. Like I just look at statistics and I'm trying to figure out, not just trusting my gut, but trying to look at the numbers and see what actually works and make changes based on that. I think that's a big piece of where my advantage has come from. Another thing that we've done is we've developed software to kind of manage our students and our staff. We make that software available to all of our clients, those that want to use that. We think it makes a big difference as well. And how it integrates with your website is an important piece of getting all of this to work together as well. I think the arts are super important to build communities. We are sort of the last bastion of human interaction. As everything is moving to virtual this and AI that, I think that bringing people together, and especially bringing people together surrounding the arts, is a very, very important thing for us to retain in our own communities. And then I also have very, very strong opinions on tech and how it should be used and how it shouldn't be used. I believe that tech should turn humans into superhumans. I believe that it should not be used to replace human beings, which is what a lot of the software companies for managing studios are attempting to do. And I think it's a mistake. Okay, before we jump in and talk about specifically what we want these websites to accomplish for us, let's take just a moment and talk about what I'm calling the 3 keys and the 3 myths before we get started. Here's the 3 keys. We're going to talk about the $1 million mistake that studios are making, literally costing some studios $1 million if we make this mistake and continue to remain in that mistake. Then we'll talk about the $1 million question. If you can answer this question effectively, literally can make $1 million for your studio. It did for mine because I was willing to answer that question. I was willing to confront the reality of that question and its impact on my business. And then I actually made changes based on that. And then we'll talk about the $1 million stats, what the statistics are that we actually need in order to make good decisions for our studios. Okay, the $1 million mistake, it actually has a name. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is the idea that we've already invested time or money in something, and then I can't sort of take a step back and change that thing. Or I feel like, hey, because I've spent time on this, I can't go back and do something differently. Or because I've spent, money on this, I can't go back and I can't change this thing. And I see this come up all the time, not just in the studio industry, but as I'm working with other business owners as well, that they feel like, oh, well, I've already designed my website this way, I've already designed my schedule this way, and if I make this change, it's not sort of worth it to me, or somehow I shouldn't make this change because I've already invested some money or time in it, even if it's the right decision in the long term for my studio. Or sometimes I hear something like this, hey, my brother-in-law helps build the site and he's kind of slow to update things, but I've already asked him and put him in charge. Those kind of things. We've kind of made a decision and we're going to stick with it simply because we've made the decision, not because it's the best option in front of us. So my advice here is let's exercise some leadership in our businesses. Let's take a stand in our value and let's not be playing business. Let's make sure that we're making decisions that help to move our businesses into a legacy position where we could literally sell these someday or hand them off to our kids or whatever your goal is as an exit strategy in the long term. Now, here's the good news, specifically about the 5-page mini sites. There are a couple of ways to handle this. If you already have a website, of course, you can use one of these sites to completely replace it, but you don't have to do that. You can use this in conjunction with something that you already have built. You can create a new site and leave your current site, in other words. Or there's a couple of other ways. If you have a fairly robust website that you really like, there's just a few simple modifications that we can make to what you've already built so that we're not really replacing what you currently have. We're just making the modifications to it so that it does accomplish what we need it to. And we'll talk about what that is specifically in just a minute here. But what's the catch here? Well, the catch is it matters which one of these you choose. Depending on the location that you're at, depending on where you're at, how many students you have, and a few other little statistics on your website, it matters which one of these you choose. And we'll show you how you can set up some time to chat with us a little bit about making that decision, and then whether or not you want to use our help to implement those things, we'll help you make the decision based on the stats that we're seeing right now. Now, the million-dollar question is the next thing we need to talk about. Here's the million-dollar question. How many visitors to your website don't sign up for classes? Now, there's a really good chance that you don't know the answer to that question. And that makes it hard for us to answer this follow-up question. Why then are they not signing up? What is it that they're seeing that's preventing them from actually enrolling in your classes? If you don't know the answer to the first question, it's literally impossible to answer the second one. Okay, the million-dollar stats. I don't care how many likes my Facebook posts get. Knowing my enrollment last year and then my enrollment this year doesn't help me to know what to do to move the needle to improve that over the following year. Those are not the kind of statistics that help me to make the right decisions to improve the profitability of my studio. Now, every studio is different. I'm absolutely going to accept that. Every different area might be a little bit different. Your area may be economically blessed. It may be a little bit economically depressed. What you're teaching might be a little bit weird, and most people don't know what it is. I'm in that situation. I have one studio that teaches Brazilian capoeira. We have to educate people on what that is before we can sell it to them, right? So I realize that every single area and every single studio has its own nuances. But there's good news and there's bad news here. You have a unique offer. There is something that you are offering that is different than the rest of your studios, the studios in your area are offering. And we need to know a little bit more about your offer to kind of point you in the right direction here as well. To know specifically, okay, these are the stats that we should be paying attention to because you're in this type of area, you have this type of offer, and your studio's existed for this long. Those kind of things, right? If you can give us a little bit of information about that, we can point you in the right direction here as well. All right, let's move on now to what we call the 3 myths. Keep in mind that what we're going to teach today really won't work as well if we keep believing some things that just simply aren't true. Myth number 1 is that marketing and sales are the same thing. Successful businesses of all flavors, not just dance studios and martial arts studios, have both effective advertising and also sales systems in place. Studios have been convinced to combine these two. Like when somebody hits their website, the first thing we do is say, hey, buy my stuff, right? That there's not a difference between our marketing and our sales systems. This is why I'm constantly inviting you guys, for example, to book a call, is because I'm not quite sure if what we have is a good fit for what you have. But I'm confident that if we talk about it and I learn a little bit more about what you're doing, we can make a good decision on that, okay? Myth number 2 is get the info out there and they'll come in. Like if you build it, they will come. Okay. I hear this all the time. I feel like I just need to get my name out there. The reality is that marketing has shifted over the last several years. It's no longer about just getting our info out to them. It's more important now to get their info into us. If I have the contact info of people that I know are interested in my stuff, that's the function, that's the main function of my website. I know that then I can follow up with these people and we're going to get a massive number of students enrolled, and frankly, the right students. Myth number 3 is that prospects or prospective students prefer to do online enrollments. About 16% of your website visitors are willing to enroll directly online. More than 80% of website visitors will not use one of these online enrollment widgets directly. Okay, so we're literally talking about this slice of the pie of the people that are hitting your website that are willing to enroll in something directly online. Those people exist. It is literally about that much. This one, the orange section here, it represents the people that want something else. They either have questions they need answered, they want to come in for a trial or an open house, or to communicate for some reason with a human being that can kind of put their fears to rest or something like that. And if we're pushing them constantly to enroll online, we lose out on a massive piece of the pie. Now, here's the really insidious piece, is that these folks that are willing to enroll online, they will give you the feedback that they do like this option, okay? These folks still won't enroll online. And these folks will also do whatever the other guys are willing to do. So if we can get people to come in for an intro, or we can get them to reach out for more info and then start a conversation with them, we can literally take a massively bigger piece of the pie, because people who are willing to enroll online are also willing to engage in further conversation. Okay? All right, good enough. So what are we building here? What does my mini site actually need to accomplish for me? Number 1, no questions asked. It needs to be easy to update. Can my staff go in and easily make updates themselves? Look, I love WordPress. I frankly write computer code and can build websites from scratch myself, but I still choose not to do that. I choose to use these systems that are very, very easy to update because I don't want to have to go in and do all the updates. Once again, I'm trying to turn my staff into superhumans, and by allowing them to go in and do updates for me, it saves me a massive amount of time. Is it simple enough that things aren't breaking, right? So one of the problems with the more complicated websites, and the reason that the people feel like they have to bring on web developers a lot of times, is because there's so many little buttons to click and settings to make sure they're set up exactly right. And if you don't do that exactly right in the exactly right order, your website can go down. I want to know, can I set this and forget it? Can I just set this up, have it run literally all year round and work for me? And every once in a while I go in and I tweak a thing and I make an update to a thing, but I just simply don't have to do that very often because it's literally automated for me. That's what I want, okay? Number 2 is that a massive piece of this is that its job is to capture the contact info of the people that are interested in what we are offering. Once again, now I can't emphasize this too much. Marketing today isn't just about getting your information out to people. Your website is no longer just supposed to be this brochure that answers every single question for everybody, and then they'll never have any questions and you'll never have an excuse to start a conversation with them. That's not what we're trying to do. It's about getting their information. All I want is, hey, are you interested in my stuff? Cool, give me your information and then we'll follow up. We'll continue that conversation, okay? Let's get some basic contact info so that we can follow up with these people. Remember, the money is in the follow-up. Now, we'll talk about simplifying the follow-up in just a second here, but I'm going to emphasize that one more time. The money is in the follow-up. If you're not willing to do any kind of follow-up with people that are interested in what you're doing, or you're losing them and they're falling through the cracks, you're literally leaving thousands and thousands of dollars on the dance floor. So the back-end follow-up, what is that? What is happening on the back end of your website? When somebody visits your website, sees your cool stuff, wants to enroll, raises their hand in some way and says, hey, I'm interested in your stuff, what is actually happening on the back end? That's an important piece. We want there to be a simple, what we call prospect pipeline in place. And this is the key. Remember earlier I was talking about the difference between advertising and marketing. If we can get them to the website, and then we can get them to raise their hand and say, I'm interested in your stuff. And then we can follow that up just a little bit with, hey, this is the reason we're different than everybody else. And this is the reason that we're worth more and we think you should come train with us. And then we make an offer to these people. That's what we call our prospect pipeline. We want to make sure that we have that figured out, that it's very, very simple, very, very easy for our staff to manage. I want you to ask yourself this question: can I run this studio from literally anywhere in the world? As long as I'm, got an internet connection, I could be sitting on the beach in Fiji and I can log in and I can look and I can say, oh, my staff is at work. They're doing the right thing. They're calling the right people. They're emailing the right folks and they're getting students enrolled. I could be anywhere and I could run this thing. The other thing I want this website to do for me is I want some clear and actionable stat tracking. I want stats that are easy to read. I can look at them and then they can answer the question for me, so what? Okay, this many people did this on the website, so what should I do about that? I want that delivered to me, okay? I want to know what changes, if any, that I make to my sites are working or not. Just because I think this particular image is pretty or looks nice on this particular page, is it actually helping me to convert more people into ongoing students? And I want that answer to be presented to me in a very clear way. I want to get that feedback as well in less than a week. So if I'm running an ad to this website, if I'm making changes to text, if I'm making changes to an image, I don't want to have to wait more than about 4 or 5 days to know if those changes are making a significant difference in the results that I'm getting in my studio. I need to be able to get that data back very quickly. Now imagine a website that does all of this for you. It's easy to update. It captures contact info of the interested visitors. It manages my staff in their back-end follow-up and what they're doing to make sure these folks come in and get enrolled. And it gives me clear and actionable stat tracking. This is what I want. Super easy, super clean, actionable, and that's it. So how you implement depends on where you're at. Okay, that's why we're offering here a free website and kind of studio audit. We know what's working. We've got the stats to prove it. So we can say, okay, if this is happening at your studio, this is what you should do. If this is happening on your website, this is what you should do. We know those very specific changes, but as I mentioned earlier, every studio is sort of in a different phase, okay? And that's why we're offering to do this free website and studio audit for you, absolutely no charge. Matter of fact, if you don't think what we share is valuable for you, I will literally buy you lunch, okay? Like I said, I respect your time, I respect my time, and so we want to make sure that we're actually helping you to move the needle in your studio. And I think you'll be impressed with what we're able to lay out for you. Once again, absolutely no charge from us at all. That's what we call the Lunch on Me guarantee. If you feel for any reason at all like we've wasted any of your time, just let us know. I will personally send you a Visa gift card to pay for lunch for you and for a friend. Just let us know. We're confident that we're going to be able to help you, or we'll let you know exactly what you should be doing next if we're not the best folks to help you out with this, okay? So how does it work? Well, obviously we need a little bit more info about your studio, your offer, and then tell us a little bit about how things are currently going. We'll put together a custom plan for you with literally checklisted steps of what you should do next. And then if you'd like help implementing that very specific checklist that's customized for your own studio, you're welcome to ask us about that and what that would look like as well. Why would we do this? Why would we do it for free? Well, honestly, we do think it's fun. We love what we do. My team and I are in this because we value the arts and its influence, like I mentioned earlier. I think that there's something very special about artistic studios where we're teaching the arts, where we can bring human beings together in a world where technology is sort of, in a sense, trying to push people apart. Also, of course, some folks are going to choose to want to work together with us to grow their programs. And so we know that if we offer this for free, we have an opportunity to get that idea in front of a bunch of folks. And if you'd like to have that conversation, just let us know. We're happy to talk to you about what it looks like to work together with us. You can go to automateddancestudio.com and fill out a little simple form. Give us that information about your studio. You'll be redirected to another website where then you can find a convenient time to book your call. But I wanted to take just a minute here as well and talk a little bit about some of the clients that have implemented some of these strategies. And I'll show you some of the other sort of related strategies that we have and what kind of results they're getting. Meredith, for example, she runs a studio in Alabama in a fairly rural area. She enrolled 20 students into her homeschool classes in just 1 week using this strategy. Cool thing, of course, about those homeschool classes is that they're during the day. And so once you've got a studio that's sort of filled up or has kind of all the main prime time hours filled up in your studio, that's definitely one of the directions that you want to go. Using exactly this strategy, that's how she implemented that. Uh, in her words, Campbell says to us, in the last week, 24 people have filled out the Get Started form and 8 have registered. Those 24 people are paying for intros at this particular studio. That's what we're going to recommend that you do. We've got some very specific strategies about how we'll get students to come in and pay for those intros. That's a big key on attracting the kinds of people that are then going to be most dedicated to your studio. So of those 24 that filled out this form this week, she'll probably get another half of those enrolled in the next week. So hoping that gets up to about 20 students registered from that number of folks filling out her little form on her website. This one, Sarah sharing with us in California. She has a studio, survived the recital, classes filled with new prospects. She says, put money in my retirement account, paid my taxes, and off to Spain in a week. And studio will remain open while I'm on the other side of the globe. I think that is a good week. That's pretty exciting what Sarah's sharing there. She also implemented a couple of the strategies that we teach where we actually, in our studios and most of our clients are seeing an uptick in gross collections the month after their recital, where I know that most studios are seeing that ramp down pretty significantly at that time of year. Sarah, just by the way, happens to be in an area that's a little more highly populated than the last two that I shared here. Denise sharing with us, I am overjoyed after years of believing I was the only person who could train anyone. Today, a staff member is training a new hire and way better than I train. We've got some really specific systems that we use at our own studios that we generally teach to our clients, especially those that are looking to attract and retain new instructors and new staff members. Denise continues on there. This is real growth for me. This is because of my new mindset and also because I have trainable systems in place. A big piece of what we're doing here with the prospect pipeline, with the website and the statistics we were talking about, I want my staff to be able to open up their laptop or the computer or whatever they're working at the front desk, and there's a checklist of things for them to do, and they go do those things, and then they close the laptop and they come back the next day and they go through the next checklist, and it tells them exactly what to do. And then I can see whether or not that work is getting done literally from anywhere in the world, like Sarah a second ago is doing from Spain, okay? Joanne sharing with us here, we had the best open house. We had 30 registered, 17 showed up. 6 of those signed up for classes, plus 2 from the intro the week before, really boosted my confidence in the enrollment process. Now, I actually happen to know the punchline to this one as well. I followed up with her a little bit, and 30 registered, 17 showed up. She got the other students in for paid intros, and then enrolled another 8 of those students. So that's 14 students enrolled into higher level programs, into more expensive programs, 12-month commitments with about 4 hours of work. Not bad for, once again, fairly rural area in Florida. Karen, not far outside of Denver, Colorado, shared with us 72 days into 90 students in 90 days, and we're at 74 new students. 20 more students enrolled from intros last week. 90 students in 90 days is one of the strategies that we work with some of our mastermind clients as well. We can literally get this to work at any time of year as well, just to make it a little more challenging on my own studio and my own staff, because we're pretty good at it. We did a 90 student 90 days challenge of last year during October, November, and December, which is kind of the hardest time to really build that momentum before the new year. People are kind of settled into their schedules. We ended up with 93 students in those 90 days as well, following, once again, exact same system. Sharika sharing with us here, after we troubleshoot my Facebook page Thursday, I've had an additional 10 Get Started forms completed. Now, point that I'm sharing this one is because this is not paid ads. This is just taking a look at what she's posting on her Facebook page, just some organic stuff that she did. Literally another 10 paid intros. She'll convert easily 8 of those into ongoing students worth about $2,000 to $3,000 a piece. At a minimum, she's making $16,000 in collections off of a tweak to her Facebook page. As I mentioned before, we can get this to work at any time of year. We've gotten 26 prospects and 14 intros for the month of June. Drew's absolutely killing it, has a fantastic program, has been sticking very specifically to the statistics that he's tracking and training his staff to follow the procedures that we've laid out for them, getting these folks enrolled, once again, worth about $2,500 to $2,700 in his particular case. You can do the math on that, absolutely valuable. Kylie brought in 75 prospective students in 3 weeks. She's absolutely overwhelmed. When you have 75 prospects actually coming into your studio over 3 weeks, it takes some work to make sure that you're onboarding that many students at one time. But congrats to Kylie for what she just recently accomplished. Tracy sharing this once again in California, saying getting a slew of registrations for camp. So she's getting this to work over the summertime. So happy. Went from 30 to 120 enrolled in 5 days. In 5 days. Okay. My good buddy Ninja here actually runs a martial arts studio. He's teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In the past month, they registered 35 new students off the same systems that we teach here. His new student value for fundamentals like beginner students is actually about $3,500. So you can do the math there, 35 times $3,500. That's a significant amount of increased gross collections in just 1 month. Caitlin from Virginia sharing with us here, 30 new students this month on all new tuition rates. So not for every studio. Once again, this is why we need you to book a call and we can chat with you and let you know if you should or shouldn't do this. But there's a really good chance that there's some wiggle room in your tuition rates. We showed Caitlin how to increase her tuition significantly and how to charge large down payments on the front end. So she's kind of front loading the tuition rather than charging little registration fees like most people do. With 30 new students with $199 down payment, which is about where she's at right now, that's $6,000 this month just in down payments. And that doesn't include what she's going to be collecting this month on increased tuition rates. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of all kinds of different studios in all kinds of different places that are implementing these things and getting them to work. Listen, we would love to add you to this list. We would love to, the next time we make a webinar, be sharing your success story and bragging about you and celebrating a little bit about what you've accomplished as well. Best way to accomplish that is to have just a quick chat with us. Remember, we respect your time. We're guaranteeing your time. If you take a moment and head to automateddancestudio.com, couple of questions there. Let us know a little bit about what your studio is doing. We need to know the domain name of your website if you have one already. And if you don't already have a website, of course, we don't need the domain name, but we do need to know that you don't have a website yet so that we can make sure that we make the right recommendations. That'll redirect you to a page where you can book a call at a time that's convenient for you. In about 30 minutes, we can help you lay out a plan, a very specific checklist of what you should be doing next in your studio. And then we'll ask the question, would you like our help to implement this? And you can say yes or you can say no. And if you'd like to chat about that, we'll talk a little more about what it means to work together. But either way, I'm excited about learning more about your studio and how we can help you take things to the next level. Good luck.